It is manualized for sure. Now, it is actually, I feel in going through the material and the programming, that it is actually less structured than seeking safety. And what I mean by that is we're going to bring in more and more of the client's goals and their language into developing Triple P. All right. Um, Let me jump ahead. I'm way behind my pictures here. Triple P is a teaching model. It's focused on role play and cognitive behaviorally based. So you're going to see when we get to, not today, but when we get to in the future, cognitive behavioral therapy and goal planning for cognitive behavioral therapy, you will hear echoes of some of the things that we went through today because it has some similar structure to cognitive behavioral therapy as well. And so let's jump into our guidelines for Triple P. All right. I listed some basic guidelines here, and I'll go ahead and talk about them a little further. Triple P is about discovery and partnership with the parents and with the teenager, if there's a teenager in the home. So we're gonna, I mean, similar to some of our more theoretical models, we have to ask, what is it that the caregiver would like to see? Especially in regards to parenting, especially in regards to behaviors of their children. And so we're working on building that collaboration. In all of these models, we really are in different ways, but we want to work on that collaboration with the family when it comes to Triple P. And in doing so, we want to challenge the caregiver to think and word even some of their ideas for behaviors for their kids. We want to challenge them to think in a positive language. For example, I'm going to use the name Finn for the child. Finn will stop hitting and biting and headbutting. Okay, That's one way we can say it. We could potentially challenge them, and we could say, well, what is a different way to say that? Maybe Finn will learn and practice gentle touch and gentle play, such as, and then we list specific ways that that might look with the family. And I'm going to give you later some more terminology and what that looks like. Okay. Um, Caregiver language with Triple P, we want to make sure that as we go, initially, we may not have that language, all right, from them of what they're looking for. But we want to make sure that as we go through Triple P with them, that we start adding that caregiver language into the not only the general goal, but especially the sub goals with Triple P. And I'm going to show you ways to be able to do that as we go through today. Okay. And then we want to list the specific assessments that we're going to use with them in our treatment plan, just like we did with Seeking Safety. And we want to go over what those assessments are going to be with the family before we actually administer them. So the scary way for me to do it with a family would be to say, oh, hey, today we're working on completing a parenting scale that measures your parenting style. We're also going to do a strengths difficulties questionnaire that talks about what you see as the child's strengths and the difficulties you're having. I could do that the day of, but it's going to be much more scary than talking at the end of the session before of what we can work on the next session. And so prefacing that with the family before you do an assessment, talking about it the session before can really help them, all right, to help them get on the same page and building that collaboration with them. What is it that the assessment is? What's the purpose of the assessment? All right. How do they benefit from the assessment that you're going to do with them? And this is a key one, who will have access to the assessment and the results? Talking through that with the family helps maintain that rapport, build that trust, and build that collaboration with the family. And then the last one is outlining the general process or the phases of Triple P. So why is it important for us to establish a positive relationship with our children before we address the important misbehaviors, right? And before we start saying, oh, by the way, here's a chore chart, here's a behavioral contract, this is what you do to practice timeouts, okay? Can you as a clinician cite research to help back up your stance by saying things like, hey, it's found that, and then you fill in the blank, okay? For instance, let me give you an example. There was a video, and I share this with clients. There was a video of an NFL player who he was on the edge of his career just exploding. And he was a believer, and God decided that, or he decided that, you know, I like the NFL, but my heart is children, especially teenagers. And so he left the NFL to start a camp for youth. And what he found in that camp is, and I tell this to families, um, he found that discipline without a relationship equals rebellion. Let me say it again. If we try to discipline our children without having a relationship with them, an attachment, that's what we call it, right, in the therapy field. If we try to discipline them without that attachment, they're going to rebel. And then I might even ask the family, have you experienced any kind of rebellion or rebellious attitudes or actions? And even in families that have 2 and 3-year-olds, they say yes. So I'm like, oh. So talking to them about the basic overarching process and the theory there of triple P, and helping them understand that. And that's what triple P is going to focus on anyway, is it's going to focus first on that overall positive relationship and then funnel down into creating new behaviors that we want to see and addressing the misbehaviors. I think it's important during this time too to normalize their stress and the problems that they're getting as parents. And some of the triple P videos, which by the way, you can pull up on your phone and access through Google Drive. Put Google Drive on your phone. And if you have your work email on your phone, you can access the Google Drive videos straight through the family preservation folder. And you can play those for the family right there. And it tells what session they're to be played with. And those videos will help you because it's real parents having real problems. That will help normalize it for these families as well. Like, yes, I've been there. Look at that person, that mom that's screaming and they're pulling their hair out. I've been there. Like, I get it. I get what they're going through. I think that can help build that relationship with some of our families as well. And then the last one here under the general process, there is actually under family preservation folder, there's a training folder. And underneath that, there's a folder that says triple P. There's a document that's called the triple P overview. I actually brought that up on my phone because I forgot to print it. I brought it up on my phone in session with families. And I went through some of that with the family before I even brought in the treatment plan. And a lot of what you're going to see today in the main goal, the sub goals, and the actions is pulled straight from the triple P overview sheet because it's in client language and they understand it. And so talking through that with them before you even bring in the treatment plan, then you can say, hey, I'll type this up for us and it'll look good to DCS. And I'll bring this in. We can go through it. If there's anything else you want to clarify or work on, we'll do that before we both sign off on it. All right. And so that might be another way to build that collaboration with the family. Our goal type for triple P is almost always going to be parenting. It's a parenting program. So when you're creating those goals, let's move into a couple samples for the main goal. So there's two main ways that you can list the main goal. Make this wording your own if you want. If there's client language that they've had, feel free to put that into this main goal as well. And then of course you could say by completing the triple P program at the end of each of these goals. So goals and actions are really going to change somewhat depending on if it's a child or a teen that you're primarily really focusing in on. So your juvenile cases are almost always going to be like, it's going to be a teen related goal. Increase caregiver understanding of children, building parent-child relationships. You can even add in the child's name to this type of a goal, right? And then, of course, you can say by completing a triple P program or 10 sessions of triple P, however you want to word that. The teen one, this is funny. This is so funny that it's different in their manual, that the main goal is not like the child one. Listen to this. Increase parental skills and confidence. Yes, in raising teenagers. I have 3 teenagers. Yes, I need my confidence built. I'm going to grab a hold of that if that's presented to me. All right. It's hard to raise teenagers. And if you watch the Triple P teen videos, which I did upload, by the way, into the Google Drive, they're way longer. Instead of like 3 minutes, they're like 15 minutes because there's a lot there when it comes to teenagers. It's hard. All right. So these are 2 examples of that main overarching goal when you have Triple P as the evidence-based program. Let's move into our sub goals. Aww. So, sub goal number 1 is to establish a baseline of parent goals, child behaviors, teen behaviors, you could say, and triple P overview. So, there's a lot going on there. You'll probably have to, you could rename the word baseline, or you could talk to the family about what that means when it comes to what you're actually working on. So, they're going to help you understand what is going on right now, what's going on in the home when it comes to their goals, but also the behaviors that are happening in the home. Sub goal number 2, you're going to develop those positive relationships between the children. You can, anywhere it says children, you can put in a teen. You can put in the name too, the names here, and caregivers, building a safe, supervised, positive, engaging environment. So we want to make sure that the kids are safe, that the kids are supervised. We want to show DCS that, right? I might say that to a parent. We're going to show DCS by wording it this way. And it may seem more like a DCS language. I might say that to a parent depending on where they're at in their resistance level. But we want to show them like, hey, we're serious about this. And so that's the second goal. Our third goal is pretty straightforward. Encourage desirable behaviors. And this is one where you can put in a such as. You could put in the words such as, and then use the client's language of what they would like to see. Having those conversations with the client and the parents, especially about their hopes for what they would like to see in their family, in their relationship, in their interactions, in their child's play, in their child's eating. We can put those behaviors with this sub goal. So this is where you can come back to this goal and change it and tweak it as you're going through the assessment process with the family. And sub goal number 4, teach new skills and behaviors. So the difference between 3 and 4 is 3 is we're encouraging existing behaviors that are there already. And then sub goal number 4 is what behaviors would they like to see happen that are new with their child, with their relationship with their child. And so we can put in the client's language again here, teach new skills and behaviors like, and we can start listing in some of those behaviors. And then the last sub goal, I made the color red. Manage challenging behaviors. There's a little girl that I think is probably either showing her teeth or she's screaming in defiance. All right. And again, we can list the behaviors. And this is one that the family is probably going to want to jump to right away. But this is one of the last things we're going to really start to address with the family. Now, the program, the manual doesn't follow these sub goals goal to goal to goal. All right. It's going to hit different areas in these sub goals as you go through the manual, the booklet, the work booklet with the family. And so, like I said, this is leaning more and more towards theoretical because you may in session 3 address some things, some key actions that are underneath managing challenging behaviors. So it's not as clear cut chronological. as this shows, but this is the recommended sub-goals that Triple P has laid out. Let's move into some key actions for each one of these sub-goals. I love that he ends with a hug. So sub goal number one and is really, this is the introduction. So, and I put in a check mark to show you what it would kind of look like as you're check marking these things on your treatment plan. Completing the SDQ for the child and the teen. There's a teen version as well. Completing the parenting scale and the caregiver's parenting style. Teen, again, it's italicized, so you may not do this, but completing the conflict behavior questionnaire. We really do want to do that if there's a teen involved. And that is a questionnaire that's done, if you don't remember, it's done, the teenager does it on each of the caregivers, and the caregivers do it on the teenager. This could be quite lengthy if it's a big family and there's a lot of misbehaviors happening. And then this one's in italics as well. Complete a parent-child conflict tactics scale. This is something that you as a therapist are going to do. You as a skills coach will not be doing this. But if there is a parent assessment that has been asked for by DCS and we see that there is marks and bruises that have been on the children, I would recommend doing this with the family. You just want to make sure you preface with the family, hey, this assessment is probably the most difficult to do. It's going to ask some really hard questions. Just be as honest as you can with these questions. And again, I'm not perfect. I took this and I was surprised at some of the results that I had on this parent-child conflict tactics scale. But what this really is looking for, and I would not tell this to the family, but what this really is looking for is the presence of neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. But it's also looking for how often in the past week have they had to discipline their kids in some form or fashion. And that's a great topic to have with your families. What did that look like? And it appears like you may be had to discipline Finn more than your daughter Macy. Can you tell me what that means? What's going on there with the results as you're presenting those results to the family? Completing a parent interview is a big part of this. And for children and teen, I should have put teen here as well, completing a parent-child interaction observation. So setting up a mealtime if you can. I didn't put it in here, but completing a child interview could be part of this as well. Child or teen interview. Those forms are in the Triple P treatment model folder. And then completing Triple P session 1. That's all usually going to be around this sub-goal number 1. And then sub-goal number 2, some of the actions here that we could put down is completing session number 2, reviewing the results. That's what they want for Triple P, is reviewing the results and the data summary of the self-reports that the parent did, the parent interview, the parent-child observation, using those results to come up with those specific targets that the parents especially want to see. But when it comes to their parenting skills too, the scale may have said that they're high on laxness or overreactivity or hostility. How do we decrease those? How do we increase the positive interactions? Zero in on activities of interest to the child, and we can be specific on those as well. What are their child's interests? What is the teen's interest? And then for the parent, looking for opportunities to talk with the children about the child's interest. And then providing physical affection, hugging, cuddling, tickling. The teen version just basically says, show affection. Doesn't list it very specific. So those are the actions that we're looking at for sub-goal number 2. Sub-goal number 3, completing the Triple P Level 4 Standard Session 3, practicing descriptive ways to praise the child, describing the behavior and the action that they really do appreciate, practice providing attention through nonverbals such as, and then they give some, right? There's a such as smiling, winking, patting on the back. We can brainstorm others with the family of how they might be able to do that. And then this fourth one, depending on if it's child or teen, provide interesting and engaging activities. The teen version adds two different new things there. Social and recreational activities. Triple P feels like those two need to be added to a teen for actions for the parent to provide those. And then for teen, be involved in the activities. And then they say no task is a little task. You don't have to add that to your treatment plan write up, that one in parentheses, but we want to be involved and we want to see our families involved with their teens. And then some key actions for subgoal number 4, practice the parenting model, parenting the model behaviors. So for instance, I'm in a home and the father, one of his main goals is for the kids to try new foods because all they want to eat is high sodium foods like hot dogs and SpaghettiOs. And so, and they'll refuse and throw the food onto the floor. And so I'm sitting there coming in for my parent-child interaction. That's the last thing, right? We're going to do that after the assessments and the parent interview. We want to see, are the things that we saw in the assessment and the things the parent is saying, are they actually happening? Oh yeah, they were happening in that observation. But the other thing is, the parent isn't eating with the children. He's not eating alongside of them. He gives them food and he sits there and watches them. And then when he's about to leave the house, he grabs something for on the road. He's missing a huge opportunity to model the behaviors that he's wanting to see. Practicing use of questions and prompts to catch those incidental teaching moments. You might have to describe to a client, what does that mean? Practice the ask, say, do. For teens, coach the problem solving, and there's role plays in there of how to do problem solving with your teenager. For children, begin a behavioral chart to set goals and reinforce skill development. For teens, they have it worded a little different. Begin a behavioral contract between the parents and the adolescent to set the target goals of behavior and reinforce the teen's development. You can reword that, of course, in the client's language, because some of that, like we're using the word behavioral, we want to make sure we're using the client's language. And then in subgoal number 4, Triple P encourages the practice of having a family meeting. And so you're going to work with the family through the manual, through the workbook of how do you hold a family meeting? What does that look like? Okay. And then subgoal number 5, here's some other ones. Quite a few for subgoal number 5. Completing sessions 4 through 10. We kind of just lumped them all into here for subgoal number 5. Again, you're going to be jumping back and forth in some of these. Thinking through creating and enforcing their ground rules as a family, thinking through and rehearsing appropriate behavior, learning what behaviors can be ignored. That's a key, especially for toddlers. Intentionally ignore those behaviors instead of reacting negatively. And again, if there are certain key behaviors that we can talk with the family about that they can ignore, we can go back to the action plan here and we can type in those. We're going to intentionally ignore, instead of saying problem behavior, we're going to list what it is here, okay, instead of reacting negatively. Practicing clear, calm instructions for a task. For children, practicing quiet time if the above doesn't work. Children, practicing timeout when the above does not work. For teens, this is a big one in the teen program, acknowledging their emotions. For teens, look, they added this one here, not only for subgoal number 4, but they added it again for subgoal number 5. Hold a family meeting, teaching compromise, decision-making, and responsibility for that teen to take responsibility. Those are key things that you're gonna work with that parent on and what those even mean. And the last one, brainstorming ideas for parent self-care and reducing the parent stress associated with raising teenagers. I love how Triple P words that. Reduce parent stress associated with raising teenagers. It's like kind of like it's gonna happen, right? So how do you work on taking care of yourself too? And that's really what we're looking at there. Okay, so these are some great things that you can just copy and paste into that Triple P evidence-based overall goal, right? So that wraps us up for Triple P. This leaves us some time for any questions about Triple P or about overall what we've gone through today? I'm gonna open the floor for you.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot.
Mm.
That's a lot going on with Triple P.
There is, isn't there? What would be some ways to reduce that?
I think, I mean, practice, like doing this with families is gonna be probably the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think making a treatment plan, we can put them in there,
Mm-hmm.
um, and maybe it won't be as complex, but just
Mm-hmm.
going through this, it's a lot per slide and a lot to digest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you might be able to normalize that with families too. You might be able to say, hey, this looks like a lot, but we're going to tackle this together and you're going to find we're going to get through it pretty quick. And even if we don't get through it quickly, that's okay because this is a journey. Parenting is a journey. And so you're just having that normalizing conversation with the family through that. Other thoughts or feelings? Sean, you kind of shared a feeling there, right? I mean, it's kind of we don't want to overwhelm the family, right? So,
I just did the Triple P training recent
mhm.
last week.
I know you
And
did. Yeah.
one thing that they stressed is to do it sequentially. So like don't skip ahead if you feel like, oh, the parent wants to talk about this and that's in session like 6 or something. To try to keep it one at a time. That's like the goal, one of the goals. And I think that would help with not overwhelming, just focusing on what that one session is talking about. And they said that you can go back to things if you need, if like, or focus on something for several weeks, like one
Hmm.
lesson, if you really, really need. So taking it slow and doing it
Hmm.
per like what the family needs individually will help it let be less overwhelming.
I think so. I think so. Taking it in smaller bites. So here's that sheet I talked to you about early on at the beginning of Triple P overview. This is the overview sheet, and I didn't put this in their hands, but I used it as a guide to talk through. But you can see some of those sub goals where we pulled those sub goals and some of the actions underneath. All right. And then this is that basic model of Triple P that it's working on doing with families. We're going to promote those positive relationships, move into encouraging desirable behaviors, funnel into teaching new skills and behaviors, and then focus in on managing the misbehavior. And so when we did that similar to the sub goals that we went through as well. And it's very similar for the team as well. And so we want to start here. We have had times in the past where we as direct care staff have tried to jump to managing misbehavior with the family because it was so overwhelming in a session. We got to challenge ourselves to stick to let's really build those interactions and that attachment as much as we can early on and then move into the managing the misbehavior. And that helps us stick to fidelity, as you've just recently shared. So I appreciate you sharing that. Um, this is that form for seeking safety I was telling you about, that the patient, you can put this one page into the patient's hands for seeking safety early on. And it's just yes, maybe, no. You can see this HIV testing counseling. We can see that as number 4, but there's some other areas under here that could be helpful. And this is just a tool. I'm not saying you have to use this. This is a tool that you could use for seeking safety, and that's in the seeking safety treatment model. Um, that's in this folder here, along with the HIV supplement and the Christian supplements for seeking safety. Okay, so this is that assessment right here. And then down below, this is that resource for if they're not completing their commitments. This is that document for ideas to help them um, through that. Okay, and then the whole manual's in here as well.